Inflation and rising interest rates could cause a recession, and the former Amazon CEO is chiming in with his predictions. Jeff Bezos said the economy is flashing warning signs, joining other corporate leaders who have cautioned that the US is headed for a recession. In this video, we'll discuss the news in detail. Make sure you stick with me to the end of the video. Without any further delay, let's get into it. Jeff Bezos' economic prediction. The energy crisis and inflation are spreading more and more. The latest to speak out about these tough times for the economy has been the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, who has warned that even more difficult times are ahead. Bezos published a tweet last Tuesday night in which he commented on the economic assessments that the CEO of Goldman Sachs, David Solomon, made to the CNBC network. David Solomon thinks it's time to be cautious, and he also thinks that if one has a risk-based business, it's time to think more carefully about the risk box. Looking at the future scenarios, the Goldman Sachs CEO also said that one should expect more volatility on the horizon and that in the distribution of results, there's a high possibility that we'll have a recession in the United States. Bezos tweeted that he agreed with Solomon and that to him, economic indicators show that it may be time to batten down the hatches in terms of risk mitigation. This turn of phrase comes from the yachting world and means that if times are tough, you have to take a few risks and be cautious. What do you think of the possibility of recession in the United States? Solomon is not the only big businessman who has warned about the risks of the energy crisis. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has also been warning of trouble ahead. He assured that the situation is very serious and that there is also a possibility that the U.S. enters a recession in the next 6 months. On the other hand, Brian Moynihan, the executive director of Bank of America, told CNBC that the information they get from their clients' credit cards shows that consumer spending stays the same, even though prices are going up. The consumer is pretty good and strong in the current situation, he said. This may be true, but it puts the economy at even more risk. If prices keep going up, consumers will stop buying as much. If companies can't make more of something, they might lose money if they raise prices so high that consumers can't afford them. What is driving the risk of recession? In August, Goldman Sachs put out a report that talked about the things that make a recession more likely to happen and how bad they think it will be. One of the reasons why the financial giant is in trouble is that it has an unusually high level of job openings, which makes the effects of a drop in output less noticeable on employment. There are almost 2 jobs for every person looking for work right now. Trading Markets said that companies announced the second most layoffs in September of this year. So even though a tight job market makes things harder, companies keep laying off workers, which makes things even worse. But layoffs could make prices go down, and Goldman Sachs agrees, saying that if there is a recession, unemployment is likely to go up slightly in the economy. When people lose their jobs, their ability to buy things goes down. If enough people leave the labor force, this can lower effective demand across the economy. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell agrees and has said that the central bank's move to raise interest rates will bring some pain to households and businesses. He sees these pains as unfortunate costs of reducing inflation and said that failing to restore price stability would mean much more pain. One of the main things the Fed can do to bring demand and supply into better balance is to raise interest rates. But this is really a demand-side measure, since interest rates affect how willing people and businesses are to borrow money. This way of lowering inflation will lead to slower growth and softer labor market conditions, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell said that this will also hurt households and businesses. A weaker job market means that people will be under more pressure to go back to work and that they will have less power to negotiate salaries and benefits. Powell has highlighted that the strength of the labor market is partly to blame for inflation. The Fed said that the labor market is clearly out of balance because the demand for workers is much higher than the supply of workers. Since the central bank started raising interest rates in the spring, the number of open jobs has gone down from 11,681 to 10,053. By raising interest rates, companies may decide not to hire someone to fill the role, which will make even fewer jobs available. Since September 2021, real wages have gone down by an average of 3%, which shows that the power of workers may be a bit overstated. The main goal of the Federal Open Market Committee right now is to bring inflation back down to the initial goal of 2%. The Federal Reserve is in charge of keeping prices stable, and this is one of the most important parts of our economy. Without stable prices, the economy can't help anyone. In particular, we won't be able to have a strong labor market that helps everyone for a long time without stable prices. High inflation hurts the people who are least able to handle it the most. Getting prices back to where they should be will take some time and forceful use of available tools to bring demand and supply closer together. For inflation to go down, it will probably take a long period of growth that is below average. Also, things in the job market will probably get better in some ways. Higher interest rates, slower growth, and a weaker job market will all make inflation go down. But but they will also hurt businesses and households. These are the bad things that happen when inflation is lowered, but the pain would be much worse if prices couldn't be kept stable. Next up, let's talk about Jeff Bezos. Blue Origin's goal to move all polluting industries off Earth. Following his trip to the edge of outer space, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos said he is inspired to fight climate change by exporting all industrial pollution to space. He said that his private space company, Blue Origin, is a key player in the fight against climate change. He also responded to critics who say that he has not used his money to solve problems on Earth. But Bezos said in a speech at the Vatican on October 14th, where he was getting the Galileo Profits of Philanthropy Award, that the long-term goal of Blue Origin is to get all polluting industries off Earth. He added that that road is long and that he probably won't live to see the end of it. Somebody else will have to pick up that torch. But as for him, he wants to do everything he can to build a way to get to space so that the person who comes after him will have an easier time. Aside from his work with Blue Origin and Amazon, the billionaire is also in charge of the Bezos Earth Fund, which works to protect the environment. Bezos said that ever since he was a child, he has wanted to build a way to space. He also spoke right to the people who said his pet project was a waste of money that could have been used to help people in need. Bezos said that people have asked him why. Why put so much money into space when there are so many problems on Earth that need to be fixed? Bezos added in response that we go to space not to leave our home, but to protect it. Consider energy in space. The sun always shines, so we can get almost an infinite amount of energy from it. He highlighted that gathering and using energy and other resources in space won't hurt the Earth. The Earth is a garden that needs to be cared for. Bezos is one of several ultra-rich executives who have dabbled in the space sector in recent years. Tesla CEO Elon Musk is also the top boss at privately held SpaceX, while billionaire Richard Branson founded the spaceflight firm Virgin Galactic. All three firms have worked as contractors for NASA. Bezos faced widespread scrutiny and some mockery after he personally blasted off on Blue Origin's first-ever commercial flight last year. Senator Bernie Sanders is one prominent critic. In April, Sanders said that Bezos and Musk were using NASA as an ATM machine to fund their own space plans. Sanders said that the private space race could turn into a huge waste of money that will open up space to corporate greed and exploitation. Bezos responded to criticism about his work in space last year. He said that people who thought he should focus more on problems on Earth were largely right. He said, "We have to do both." He highlighted that exploring space is important for the long-term health of Earth. That concludes today's video. If you found the video helpful, please do consider giving us a thumbs up. And don't forget to share your video with your friends and family. See you next time.